Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Amy.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer.
Fertility expert Dr. Amy Abazadeh.
And you have yet another success story
Just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Egg Whisperer Show. Tonight's episode is relationships and infertility, and I'm so excited to have Andrea Syrtash as our relationship expert and extremely special guest. Hi Andrea.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thank you for joining us tonight. And for those of you who don't know Andrea's work, you should. You have to go to Pregnantish.com and learn all about the fabulous work that Andrea is doing. She's not only a writer and author of 5 books, but she's also a TV host, and she's hosted shows and been on shows that we all know, like Oprah's Network, Fox, Today Show, Good Morning America. And thank you, Andrea, for all the work that you're doing, making fertility a little less taboo.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Andrea, I think the first thing that people ask or think of when they see Pregnantish is, what is it?
So Pregnantish is a lifestyle platform. Like you said in the intro, I've been in the media for many years sharing relationship advice. All of my books are how to better relationships. My TV shows, everything I talk about is around that. And it was a frustrating thing for me that while I've been going through about 7 years of infertility, which I'm sure we'll get into, I felt frustrated that the content out there was largely medical, clinical, which is very important.
Right.
But there's a whole other side of this process. Infertility is as much a relationship issue as a medical one. And I felt like that story was undertold. So I launched Pregnantish as the first non-medical platform to help singles, couples, LGBT manage this overwhelming process.
Yeah, and what was it like for you? You just mentioned 7 years. How did it affect your relationships, not just with your husband, but with people around you?
Yeah, and even with myself, I always say it's such a deep relationship issue, even with our own bodies and ourselves. It's been soul crushing, and I think it makes sense because family is such a huge value to so many people. So you have this high stakes, high value thing, and then there's all this secrecy and isolation for so many people navigating infertility and or fertility treatments. And it just becomes this really intense process because you match this high value thing with the secrecy, and it feels very lonely. So for me, I'd say my relationship with my husband has strengthened because we've had open communication through it, but we've certainly hit walls. We've not always been aligned. I give a lot of advice to partners, not just, heterosexual, of course, but anytime you're in a partnership going through fertility stuff, you're not always going to be on the same page. And just like any issue in a partnership, you have to communicate and negotiate. So infertility is not different from that.
Right. And what was the hardest thing that you guys went through as a couple? Can you give us an example on how you got through it? Because I think a lot of people might learn from that.
Sure. I think in general, I joke now that when we started trying, now I should preface it by saying at 14 years old, when I first got my period, the doctor said I may have a fertility issue, and I went, because, I'm a teenager. That's kind of good news at that point, that I'm not easily going to get pregnant.
Right.
I had endometriosis. I was in the hospital. So I actually said to my husband when we got married, this may be an issue. And I joke now that I was like, it might take us a year. Which, and I said, we should time sex to have a summer baby, which again is so ridiculous when I'm at this stage. I've gone through almost 18 treatments. I've had open stomach surgery to remove a massive fibroid tumor. I've lost pregnancies. I'd say the hardest part for us is just being human through it and saying, like, I can't support you right now. I'm crushed. I have nothing in me to give you to make you feel better. And, around that, I often tell couples, you should not be each other's main support because it's so hard to to deal with on your own, whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. It's tough. And you can't be your only outlet. Right. And also, I think with family, there are times when we've had to kind of teach our families. This is another relationship thing for people on this journey. Our families are supportive and amazing, but early on, they didn't know how to talk to us when we were going through a lot of setbacks. Right. And we had to teach people how to better talk to us. Mm-hmm. And then, sorry, yeah.
No, and thank you for sharing everything that you've been through. I mean, it's soul crushing, and just the fact that you're sharing so much of your story. I imagine for everyone else out there listening, just knowing that they're not alone. And I have so many patients that tried years before they were successful. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. But you bring up a really important point about family and your relationship. What do you say to people when, let's say, the husband's telling his family one thing and the wife's telling her family another thing, or the wife's telling his family before the wife wants him to do that? Like, how do you resolve that issue?
It's a good question. I mean, my biggest advice is don't make unilateral decisions through this. Now, where you can make a unilateral decision is, I know you're secretive, partner, but I'm going to tell my best friend because I need an outlet. Yeah. That's fine. But when it comes to big family announcements, you have to go in there together with that. I mean, it's, this is not something everyone wants to discuss at the holiday dinner table. And it's amazing how many times it will come up once people know. That the tricky part about sharing with people is that now you're going to have to update people all the time. Yeah. You may not want to do that. So my biggest advice is to pick those confidants in your family, in your friendships, you want to share with. And you can even set the boundary. I don't always talk about it, but I promise to share news when it's significant or ask for your help when I need it. Yeah. So you're steering the conversation instead of dreading seeing people because you just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I love that advice. I don't always want to talk about it, and I'll let you know when I need help. I mean, those are two really simple sentences for people to learn and just repeat. When anyone asks you a question that you're not just ready to answer, or they put you on the spot in any type of social family situation.
Totally. And the big weird thing about milestones is that people, whether you're single and dating, they'll say, when are you getting married?
Right.
When you're single and not dating, why are you still single? I mean, these are all, I should make it very clear on your show.
Right.
These are inappropriate questions, especially in the public,
to
pose to anybody. It's none of your business. And when people say, have you thought of having children? No, we've been married for 5 years. Until you said that, they mean well, but they say ridiculous things. They have foot and mouth syndrome, and it's hard not to take it personally. Right. But you can set boundaries in relationships and teach people how to talk to you better without being defensive, angry, mad, and sad. And that takes time sometimes, because at the beginning you might feel really rocked, triggered. Why would they ask me that? But we've done that, and we have a poster at Pregnantish that says, and we pinned it on Twitter. Yeah. And on Twitter we're at Pregnantish Mag, by the way, not Pregnantish, but everywhere else we're at. Okay. But the poster we pinned says the best thing to say to someone struggling with infertility is ... to listen.
Love it. I love that. Yeah. And then at what point did you come out basically with your story and know that was just right for you?
Well, it's interesting because when I decided to launch Pregnantish, once I realized that, wow, there's a lot of content here that needs to be told. And at Pregnantish, we have New York Times bestselling authors writing for us. It's a definitely well-sourced, well-researched. We have a health editor editing. I mean, it's really good, I think, content. Yeah. And so I was really excited to share my business venture, but a little freaked out to share my personal story. But I knew it had to go together. Right. I couldn't just say generally, hey, everybody, you see me in the media talking about relationships. This is a relationship trend, so I'm launching it. I came out with a Facebook post at the end of January 2017 that basically said, I'm going to share the most vulnerable post I've ever shared, and I'm writing this not to overshare, But because I know many of you reading this, either are going through this or know someone is, and you are not alone. And I shared, I've had so many shots in my drawer, I've looked like a junkie. My stomach's been black and blue, but my heart's been the most bruised. And I said, and it's been so hard, and I want to help. And I've launched Pregnantish.com, and please join me. Yeah. And the last line of my post, because people see me go into Good Morning America or these great, media appearances. At the time, I'm in hair and makeup. It's all glossy. So I said, the last line of my Facebook post was, so don't judge a Facebook by its cover.
Right.
And I like puns, obviously.
Yes. I love all of them. I love them all. And you're basically the epitome of living authentically. And what does that mean to you when I say that?
Well, I don't think you can have intimacy without vulnerability. And that's one of my relationship principles. You can't have intimacy with an audience without that. People can't relate to perfect. Perfect is inauthentic, it's boring, it's not human. So to me, the vulnerability has brought me the authenticity and the connection with the audience. If they thought I was just like a media company that's trying to prey on people who are already spending a lot of money, it would be much different. My goal at Pregnantish is to pamper the consumer at all costs. We give gift bags, as you know, Dr. Amy, you were on our panel, you did a fantastic job, and we give gift bags at every event worth, over $50, over $100. And the audience goes, wait, why are you giving this to me? And I say, because you've gone through a lot. And, understatement. At Pregnantish, I know, because I'm you. Right. I know we need to practice self-care. I know we need to be pampered. And I know we put way too much pressure on ourselves.
So, Andrea, I think you should have your own show. I mean, you should have your own sit-down talk show. And I think it should start immediately because you're such a dynamic speaker and you're so engaging and everything that you're saying is so relatable. And I know all my patients can relate to every single thing you bring up. And we just don't talk about these things enough. Has anyone approached you about that?
I have been. It's interesting, and likewise, I mean, you're amplifying the conversation in the best way, which I so appreciate. To destigmatize it in general is the goal, right? So I have done so much television, and I was just called actually by a major cable network for a dating show. And I keep trying to steer the conversation towards fertility and infertility as the most underreported trend of our time. I actually say that Pregnantish as a media site is Hallmark Channel meets Sci-Fi Network.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's like such cool content. Right. So even it's not, I think the perception is this content is depressing, it's full of failures, it's full of, no, and you know this from your work, there's miraculous moments, there's huge milestones, and even the journey of modern family making is so incredibly interesting. I mean, uterine transplants, and this is a new world. How amazing is that? So I'm starting a podcast, actually, awesome. Which I'd love to share with your audience in the next few months, and called Pregnantish, and trying to tell the stories, like I said, of modern family. This is not a fringe trend. This is our story and the story of so many people that needs to be told if we're going to be honest about how so many people come into the world today.
Well, I can tell you I'll be listening. I know so many of the viewers of this show will be tuning in as well, and we look forward to learning more from everything that you've been through and all the advice that you have to give our audience and everyone everywhere. Just one thing I just thought it would be really cool to hear your perspective on this is egg freezing, and when do you tell your boyfriend, your partner, that it's something that you're considering?
It's a great question. I wouldn't say it on date one. In general, date 1, 2 is about discovery and kind of being your vacation self, being in the moment and not being attached to outcomes, not really, getting too deep too fast. But if, excuse me, sorry, I want to take that back because I had to hiccup.
No problem.
Okay, so I wouldn't approach it on date one and say, "Hey, I just froze 18 eggs. What's your name?" But I think if you see big picture with someone, you're going to start having these conversations about, do you want to be a parent? When do you see that happening? I think it's very important to share your answer when you see more of a relationship forming and big picture and long term.
Right.
If you think it's a fun hookup at a party, absolutely not.
Right.
You're just going to wave your date goodbye. But something we published on Pregnantish, because we have a single section.
Okay.
And we posted a few articles about dating and egg freezing. And there are studies that show it improves someone's dating life because I think because the pressure is a little off. So you can look at the menu on a first date and think, what do I want for dinner, and not when can I marry and have kids with this person right away. Right. Your head should be on date one.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've written 5 books, not just one. And one of the books is How to Cheat on Your Husband.
Cheat on your husband with your husband. Has a little, and that book actually has a whole section on keeping sex sexy when trying to conceive and when you're parents. And Cheat on Your Husband with Your Husband is a fun look at adding spice to marriage.
Right. I apologize. That was not the right title.
What's funny? Many media outlets I've been on just tease. They say, after the break, we have the author of Cheat on Your Husband. And they leave the rest of the title.
Right. It's a good clickbait title. It's catchy.
Right. And then I get hate mail.
Oh, Andrea, well, thank you for being on our show. And is there one thing that you want to share with our audience that, anything that you think that every woman should know about you, about Pregnantish? Let us know. Tell us.
Thank you. Well, thank you for asking. I think my biggest message is not only that you are not alone, I'm with you, I get you, and I want to pamper you. But another thing that's helped me as I've navigated these 7 years is that I always say you don't need to know the when, the how, the who. You just need to know the what, that you're going to be a parent, and I believe we'll all get there.
I love it. Thank you so much, Andrea, and have a great night. And thank you for being on the show. I'd love to have you back, and I hope we can do this soon again.
Anytime. Thank you.
Andrea. Have a good night.
Good night.
Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Amy.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer.
Fertility expert Dr. Amy Vazadeh,
And you have yet another success story.
just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.
Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Amy.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer.